Now I'd like to maybe invite some of you who'd like to either ask us questions or chew us out or express your experiences.
You said then that you went with the Billboard. What I'd like you to tell us is where you got the inspiration of the Billboard. We know it had to be from God, but I want to know in human terms where you got that Billboard from. You know, because it's whether you say it's good or bad, it's outstanding. So, please.
Thank you.
Voice of God there.
We give credit to this young lady at MNC Sachi, who came up with it as part of a creative team, and that the concept is they send me concepts, and my favorite that I couldn't sell to the vicar was one of a giant floral sperm coming down from heaven with the caption, "Joy to the world." Now, if you know the second line, you'll understand the humor. There were a number of very safe Christmas card type awards. There were ideas that were presented. And we rejected those. We debated the sperm, couldn't sell it. Went back to them and said, try again. And they came back with this one. And I commend the vicar for his courage. He's had to take most of the heat. I'm just the stir behind the scenes. So he did great with that.
Glenn and Clay have talked about support from around the world. Again, right next door, amongst some of the streeters, there's been great support. It's really interesting listening to some of the conversations because we've been loading trucks over the last couple of days of donated goods. And whilst they've been loading, they've been chatting about it. And initially a little bit reluctantly because they said, well, what's the fuss? It was a bloody good billboard. And then the person, I think, who had some hand in trying to stop somebody from taking a knife to it said, you know, they really shouldn't do that to church property. and he thought that was pretty appalling. And I thought, you know, yeah, that's pretty good. As we continued to load the truck, the conversation actually got on to some other important things, and it just sort of died away, the conversation being had.
Well, I believe God is love, and that love is for everyone. And that love is found in this church where everyone is welcome. As you say, welcome, welcome, welcome. And we have no creed here. Everyone is welcome. I used to be a science teacher, so biology teacher. So personally, I cannot accept the virgin birth. But I know many of you do, many people do. But you are all welcome here. And thank you very much for the love that is here.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say that I've received a lot of emails from friends in different parts of the world too, and I want to say how proud I am of St. Matthew's and the people here and the congregation, and especially proud of the ones who possibly don't agree with it but are still coming to St. Matthew's, and how proud I am to be a part of this family of St. Matthew's. Thank you very much.
From someone whose daughter was brought into this church 29 years ago in my arms. I was talking to her on Skype yesterday, and she was in absolute ecstasy. She has joined Facebook, St. Matthew's Facebook. For her, her church is still very much alive. She was very ecstatic because we were first on BBC News.
But I do want to say at this time that my wife and I have so enjoyed St. Matthew's. It has been a revelation to us from our experience of traditional Christianity in the U.S. and in particular the Presbyterian and Methodist churches, who might have wanted to do this sort of thing, but had never done it. And I'm so proud that this church has done it. And it's opened up a whole avenue of religious or Christian thinking by our introduction to Bishop Spaulding, a good friend of the person standing next to me. And that was a revelation, and I've read several books of his since that time. And so I can say with the others, yes, I just spoke, I don't accept the Immaculate Conception. Truth, I don't believe in the virgin birth. All of these things I've been impossible to say, a few years back. But I'm very happy to be able to say them now.
Claire. I'd like to comment on the courage that this has taken to do what you've done this week, with the enthusiasm and inspiration from others as well. And particularly the courage this morning about making the microphone open to who knows who, and what might yet come from those comments. I think that illustrates what I believe is the core of St. Matthew's, the sense that things don't have to be as they are, the sense that we need to challenge what's being said and think constructively about a new future that is not framed by what we've necessarily experienced today. And that's what that word courage stands for. So we think courageously, but we also act courageously. And you lead the way. Thank you.
The vicar just told me to cut it off, but the vicar's warden is coming forward, so how fitting that we'll let you close off.
Which is a complicated power structure. I was going to do this in the notice period, but this seems to be the more appropriate moment to do it. For those of you who don't know, as Clay said, I'm the vicar's warden in this parish. And I just wanted to say, there's some people who need thanking. I'd like to thank Gino and Elspeth and Ian and Linda and Clay, who've been sitting downstairs watching billboards being defaced and wondering if someone was going to go in and do anything in the church. And I think that's been a really difficult time for them, and I think we should thank them for the courage they've shown this week as well. But particularly, I would like us to thank our vicar, because not just for the billboard, being persuaded as it were into this billboard, but for the way he has, I suppose handled is the word, handled the media, the gracious way in which he has put forward a really model Christian attitude to those who agree and those who don't agree. And I think in St. Matt, for taking the sort of opposition of the religious authorities, for being willing to be in some form offensive. These seem to have good biblical traditions behind them. And I'd like us to see St. Matthew's in that light as well, and to thank him from all of us for this last week's work. Thank you, Claire.
And I'd like to thank you and thank many other people. I'm aware we've just heard from people who feel rather positive towards the billboard, but I know there are a number of you, and we had a much more wide-ranging conversation at 8 o'clock. And so I invite you to carry on that conversation. It's fairly busy between now and Christmas, but later on, particularly sort of after the January break, come and have a chat with us. Really happy to talk through these issues with you. I think one of the most heartening emails I got was actually from Rob Fyfe, the head of Air New Zealand, who, as you know, has been under a lot of media pressure himself. And he just said, kia kaha, carry on in there. I know what it's like, been there. And I found that really moving.